Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. Following on from the last video where we took our simple cube and used our pattern paper to turn it into something that looks a little bit more special. Today we're going to be doing the same thing but with a circular shaped box. I will give you the measurements I've used for this particular box, but I'm not going to specifically show you the construction of it. I will, however, go through in a little bit more detail how I've put this cone-shaped lid together. Obviously, with this and the previous cube video, you can make the boxes any size you want. This is about using patterned paper to create an effective decorative element on a very simple box. This particular box has a base which is 3 5/8 of an inch in diameter. I then have cut a piece of cardstock which is 3.5 inches high and it is 11 3/4 of an inch long. Along the long side I scored at 11 1/4 of an inch, and along the short side I scored at 1/2 an inch. So that has given me the band to run around the outside. Along the long side within the 1/2 an inch tab, I've cut a series of teeth and I've then used those to wrap around and sit on the base to create the circular base of the box. For the lid of the box, I've cut myself a circle which is 4 1/4 inches in diameter, and I've then sectioned it into 4 on the back, so you can see the lines here. I cut up one of the lines and then have folded the cut piece over the next section to create this cone. So one cut edge of the circle is here and the second cut edge is approximately 1/3 of the way across the next section. And by moving this section further and further around, this is going to make this more and more pointed. So you could create a different look to the lid if you so wanted. This cone style lid, it will sit on top like so, and we want some way of the lid sitting down inside the base of the box. I've got my ring prepared. I'll demonstrate with copier paper how I put the ring together. To calculate the length of the ring, I cut myself a strip from the cardstock. This is, for demonstration, a piece of A4 length of copier paper, and it is 1 inch wide. I scored at 1/2 an inch along the short side and then cut myself a series of teeth into one of the 1/2 inch sections. To determine the length of cardstock I needed, I've sat it down inside the base of the box along the top edge, and where the ends have overlapped, I've just marked with a pencil. So that then has given me an element at the end of the strip to indicate where I can add the glue to add the strip together. So now I've determined the length of my ring, I'm going to add glue onto all of the teeth and secure that into place into the lid of the box. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of all of the pencil marks. Try and get an equal distance all the way around, so I can roll the teeth and roll the lid round at the same time to get that to purchase. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'll set the lid to dry, we'll come back to that. In terms of the decoration of the box, this has come from an 8-inch paper pad, and I've got another section here which is 3 3/4 of an inch. This is 4 inches long. I've scored at 1/4 of an inch at either end. Fold along the score lines. You want to create a lip at the top of and the bottom. What I did was I put the strip in my scoreboard, and using a craft knife, I used the craft knife to create a slit between the top and the bottom score lines at every half an inch. So that's created these cut sections. I'm then going to gently burnish to add some shape, just to help the piece glue on a little bit easier around the curves. And then that is going to line up with the top and up with the bottom of the box. And because of the length of this piece of cardstock, it's going to stick out and give this sort of profile. Now, obviously, by changing the height of this piece, even changing your score lines at top and bottom, that's going to create a different profile on your outside piece when it sticks to the outside. And indeed, you can change up the look of the piece by maybe having your cut lines closer or further apart from one another. So let's get these into place. So as with the square or the cube shaped box that we've made, these videos are not really about putting the box together. They're more about ways that you can use your patterned paper in slightly different, but albeit simple ways, just to create slightly different looks to your boxes. So that's now stuck on the outside. So whilst that's drying, we'll continue to work on the lid. To decorate the lid, I've cut myself 3 additional circles, and again, I've used the patterned paper to help me determine my colour palette. I have one circle which is 3 7/8 plus a 16th effectively. The next circle is 3 5/8, and then the final one is 3 3/8. I split the largest circle into 4 segments, and I've then sat all of these circles on top of one another like so. So they would sit on top of one another like so approximately. I've then flipped them over, and I've used the pencil line on the largest circle as my guide, and I've cut up to the centre as I did on this one, but I've cut through all 3 circles at the same time. I'm then going to use the lid that we've created and manipulate each of the circles into place on the top of the lid like so. So I'm going to start by adding glue onto a small section of the next circle. So I'm going to manipulate the orange circle and bring it around. I don't want any puckering on the orange section. I want it to sit flat on the top. So that's good. That's going to sit like that. I'm going to just go in with my scissors. I'm just going to trim that around. I'm going to stick this one in place. I'm going to stick them down one at a time because I think it will just be easier. So let's get this one stuck down. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the next circle. Glue this one on top of the orange one. And then finally do the same with the last one. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, this striped paper perhaps wasn't the best to choose in this instance, because obviously as I pull that around, that's not going to maintain the stripes. So I would stick this on exactly the same as I've done with this one, but I think I'm going to change this paper. I did actually like the striped paper, So what I've done is I've cut some circles out of the circle that I cut, and I'm going to use those. So that is not only going to help conceal the seam, but it means I get to use the paper that I wanted to use, and it just continues the circular theme of the box. My lid fits nicely in the top like so. It's got a nice profile to the lid, just something a little bit different. And just by taking some pattern paper, cutting some slits into it and adding it to a very simple box, we've created something which just looks a little bit different. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.